Content warning, rape or mention of rape, sexual harassment, suicide or suicidal thoughts, or mention of suicide, depression, panic or anxiety attack, and more. You have been warned. If you're uncomfortable with this, please stop reading or listening. You can choose other stories for a while. There are other great or extremely great writers out there. Disclaimer: I do not own the haiku characters that are to be used in this story. Photos or covers were picked from Google. Credits to the owner.
I'm laying on my bed trying to fall asleep, but I guess sleep doesn't want to visit me. I tried to count sheep and anything to fall asleep but failed. There is something that is bothering me. I suddenly thought of the image of Shoyo earlier. I was kinda pissed earlier that I raised my voice, but he was quite scared back then. He can't be easily scared, I thought. But he was able to hide it and ask if he could help, and as I rejected it rudely, tears started to flow in his eyes. It's like he had only a single hope or something. Another one is that the hint of a rotten fruit scent lingers but immediately disappears. But the most bothering thing is the way he walks. He's limping. Did he get hurt? As I was thinking, there is someone who calls me. Tsukishima K. I suddenly sit up from my bed and look around. There was nothing there. As I was about to lie again, that same voice spoke again. Tsukishima K. Don't lay around here. Go to Shoyo. What the fuck? Who is that? You're only 15. Stop cussing. Said by him. That's when I realized that the voice is coming from my head. Am I schizophrenic? What the hell? You're not. What the? Another word K. I'll definitely kill you, but I don't have enough time for this. I'm Asher, your alpha counterpart. Said the voice. Alpha, you supposed to wake up when I'm 18. I said. Guess it came early since your fated pair's Omega was awakened, Asher replied. Fated? What? I was surprised by what Asher say. Go to Shoyo. You have to save my Omega. Asher said with full authority. I was surprised by his revelation that I said my reply out loud, my Omega. Yes, my. Now go. He replied. It's the middle of the night, I protest. I don't care. Just go there. There is something that isn't right. I just sense it. Go there or else I'll take over your body and I'll never return it to you, he said. Even though I'm against it, I still follow Asher's command. Shoyo is my fated pair? I asked. And what kind of a jerk you were earlier, he said. Save your apology to him, not me, he said, cutting me. I reached the wall that separates the Tsukishima's and Hinata's properties. We have a secret passage there, so Shoyo and I can go to each other's houses without going in the front. Gosh, why do we have a big property? This is tiring. I thought. Walk faster, K. Asher says. Even if I want to object, I still walk faster than usual. Even though I have lots of complaints, I can also feel that there is something that isn't right. When I reached the side where Shoyo's room was located, I saw that his bathroom lights were open. It's almost 3 a.m. He's not usually awake at this time just to go to the bathroom, I thought. I throw some pebbles in the door on his balcony just to make sure he is awake. No response. Climb up. It's open. Asher instructed. How did you know? I asked. Eleanor told me. Who's Eleanor? I asked as I climbs up to the balcony. Shoyo's Omega counterpart. He said. You can talk to her. How come I didn't hear it? I asked as I reached the platform of the balcony and look at the inside of the room. We haven't established a connection when I was awakened. As you say, I supposed to be awake when you turned 18. We just had a connection when I start calling you, he explained. I see, I said as I opens the door. Shoyo. I whispered, shout calling Shoyo. No response. I head towards the bathroom and knock. Sho. I called out as I knock, but still there is no response. I knock a little louder this time. Shoyo. Open the door, please, I said. I've heard a muffled response saying, go away. His words were just a whisper, but it sounds like he was about to sleep. I was getting anxious by a second. You have to force open the door. I can't sense Eleanor now. Asher said. I was taken aback by what Asher told me. It can't be, right? I forcefully opened the door, creating a loud bang. Thanks for being an alpha. I didn't care anymore if it was the middle of the night. As the door swung open, I was horrified at the sight. Shoyo was laying in the bathtub where blood and water mixed in. Shish Sho, as I stuttered. Why, get the towels and remove him from the tub, Asher instructed as he cuts my thoughts. As if I was on autopilot, I grabbed the towels and get Shoyo's limp body out of the tub. There I saw the cut he made on his arms where the blood rushes out without stopping. I wrap the towel in his arms tightly and raise it above his heart to somehow slow the blood flow. While doing so, I call the emergency hotline. I'll release some pheromones just to make sure they'll remain conscious, he said. I let Asher do his thing. I was relieved a little when Shoyo's face winced a little when I added a little more pressure to his wounds. It means he's starting to get conscious and the pheromones that Asher releases helping. Sho, please stay awake for me. Please. I said. Shoyo opens his eyes a little and said, "K. Yes, it's me. Stay awake, okay?" I said. I'm so tired. He said, tears starting falling to his eyes. I know, but please stay awake, I said, trying to wipe his tears while pressing the cuts on his both wrist. 119, what's your emergency? The representative asked as they answered the call. Hinata's manor, ambulance now. My friend, my Omega tries to, I said as I starts to cry. The help is on the way. In the meantime, follow my instructions. Okay, I said. I look at Shoyo. I'm sorry, Sho, for what I said earlier. Please stay with me, okay? Don't fall asleep. He slightly nods. When the whole ordeal was happening, the door of Shoyo's room suddenly opened. Sho, is everything okay? Shoyo's dad asked. It means his parents were the ones who enters the room. Sho, his mother calls out, sounding nearer than his father. She gasped and started crying when she sees what was happening. Wah! His father's response to his wife's action was cut when he sees what happened. Shoyo, he said as he comes near me and hold the other arm of Shoyo, helping to stop the blood. We are in the waiting room, waiting for the news about Shoyo. I didn't even notice that my parents and brother were already there. I was just staring at my hand that was covered by Sho's blood, repeating the horrifying scene earlier in my mind. Calm down, they're fine, Asher said. How do you know? You're not a doctor, I said. I'll tell Shoyo that you're becoming an idiot when you're anxious or scared, he said. I was about to debate with Asher when I just realized what it meant. Yeah, our second gender has a strong connection with its fated pair, especially if they were near, even if they aren't bonded. I was about to reply with Asher when a pair of hands hold my hand. As I look, it was my brother. Hey, let's go to the washroom to make you clean, he said. I didn't respond, but I stand and follow him into the washroom. When we reach the washroom, I start to clean my hands. Is your alpha self awake? Akitaru asks. I nod and without looking at him asked, how did you know? I just sense it. I think also mom and dad had a gist of it, he replied. I finished washing my hands when he handed me a paper bag. Here, change your clothes too, he said. I take the bag and head to one of the stalls to change clothes. While changing, I heard a female voice. Alpha. She called out. Who? She cut my response as she said, Alpha. I'm so sorry. I wasn't able to stop Shoyo. Eleanor, you're awake. Thank goodness. Asher said. I'm so sorry. The female voice said, which Asher said it was Eleanor. How come I can also hear Eleanor's voice? I asked. It's the connection, okay. I didn't filter you out yet, Asher replied. Eleanor, I said, calling her attention. Yes, Kay, can I talk to Sho? I asked. You can't. There is still a barrier that prevents me to communicate with him, she said. I see. Don't worry. Everything is stable now. Even though we still do not have a strong connection, I'll protect him, she said, assuring me. Thank you, Omega, I said. After I change my clothes, we head back. I noticed that there were some policemen in the waiting room, talking with auntie and uncle. The doctor came out from the operating room. Hinata Shoyo. The doctor calls. Yes, doctor. How was he? Hinata's dad asked. He lost a lot of blood but he was stable now. Mr. and Mrs. Hinata, we also want to inform you that we called the police just for further investigation, the doctor said. What? Why? Hinata's mom said, worrying about his son's condition. Aside from self-harm, your son also has bruises on his body possibly from abuse, or bullying, the doctor replied. Are you saying that we abuse my son? His father said with a hint of frustration in his voice. I know Mr. Hinata, you can't do that to your son. But it is our protocol just to make sure that the patient is safe, the doctor said as he calms Mr. Hinata. Mrs. Hinata holds his husband calming him and said, okay. Is there anything aside from the bruises? Let's talk privately, said the doctor looking at the other people around in the waiting room. No, tell everything here, Asher shouts angrily. Kay didn't realize that Asher already took his body when the doctor says about the bruises. After all, Kay still didn't know how to control his alpha. Everyone was stunned by the outburst of the young alpha. Instead of golden brown eyes, they were met with glowing sapphire blue eyes. Mr. Hinata. The doctor gulps since he knew that the one who speaks is the alpha himself. Mr. Hinata looks at the doctor and said, please say it here. Your son has been raped, the doctor announced. Everyone was stunned. He also tried to drop but his Omega didn't allow it, the doctor continues. What do you mean? Mrs. Hinata asked. It's a rare occurrence that the alpha Omegas or second gender consciousness awakens at an early age, which usually awakens at the age of 18. Shoyo's Omega awakens on time when he tries to drop, the doctor explained. Asher was quite furious about the news that he didn't notice that Kay was able to control him and return to control his body. The doctor looks at Kay and asked, young man, what is your name? Tsukishima Kay. I'm sorry for Asher's outburst earlier, Kay replied. The doctor smiled and said, I see. So your alpha's name is Asher? Yeah. He whispered. The doctor pats Kay's head. After their conversation with the doctor, they can't still see Shoyo. They still need to talk to the policeman just to prove their innocence. After a while, they finished the interview and they were clear to see Shoyo now. Everyone enters the room. As we enter the room, I saw Shoyo laying peacefully in the hospital bed. He's quite pale than his usual complexion, but I know he's alive due to the heart monitor and his chest movement. I sit beside Shoyo, admiring his beauty. As I thought, I will never leave your side, my Omega. The doctor enters the room and checks Shoyo's vital signs. The patient needs his alpha for a fast recovery, the doctor said as they look at Shoyo's parents. Are you saying my son has you been bonded? At this early age, his father replied angrily. At this situation, and the higher percentage that your son's fated pair is near. No doubt it will be easier for him to recover if they were bonded, the doctor said. Can I stay by his side? I asked. Son, my father said. Why are you keep cutting the elders, Kay? My mother said. I didn't reply to their questions, I just hold Shoyo's hand tightly. Dad. Akitaru said, hinting at our dad about the situation. I looked at the doctor and asked, can you guarantee that being bonded with his fated pair will have a big help for his recovery? Yes, it is, the doctor said. I cleared my throat as I said, I'm his alpha. My parents and Shoyo's parents were shocked by my sudden confession. Let's do this, Uncle said, giving the go signal. Wait, my father said, having second thoughts. Do we need Shoyo's consent before doing the bond? I asked. Yes, of course, we still need his consent or even his Omega self, the doctor said. Eleanor is enough. Asher speaks in my mind, sharing his opinion. Why? I asked him. There are chances that Shoyo himself will reject the idea. He'll think he didn't deserve to have his fated pair, he said. Realizing what he meant, I replied. I still want his approval. Okay. He agreed. Let's wait for him to wake up. Okay then, just inform us if the patient awakes, the doctor replied. Thank you. Auntie said. A few hours passed when Shoyo's fingers start to move. Sho, I called. His parents came near to his bed. He opens his eyes and we were met with ruby red eyes. "Sho, how are you feeling?" Uncle said. "Fine." Eleanor replied. "Eleanor, where's Sho?" I asked. Shoyo's parents were confused a little, and when they look at Shoyo's eyes they notice the eye color. Recuperating," she replied. He isn't ready to see you, Alpha. He's thinking that you are mad at him," she continues. "He already knew?" I asked. "I was able to talk to him now and established our connection," she said. "I see. Can you tell him that I'm not mad at him?" I said. "Okay," she said. "Thank you. Take some rest, okay?" I said. "I see. Can you tell him that I'm not mad at him?" Kay said. "Okay." Eleanor replied. "Thank you. Take some rest, okay?" Kay said. I hear all their conversation by then. I let Eleanor take over my body since I don't want to face any one of them. I'm not ready yet. I cause too much trouble to them. "Nay, Sho," Eleanor said, getting my attention. "I know. Just give me a few minutes. Let me rest here," I said. Eleanor hugs me and said, "Everything will be fine. We already have our Alpha to protect us." Do you think he hates me?" I asked as I worried about Kay and everything. "No, Kay doesn't hate you. He loves you," Eleanor said reassuringly. "He's just an idiot to recognize what love is." A male voice interjected in our conversation. "Who's that?" I asked. "It's Asher, Kay's Alpha." She chuckles. "Oh, yeah, I'm just surprised. Indeed, I can hear my Alpha's inner voice," I said. But we can block each other's thoughts if we have," Asher said. "I see, Asher. Yes. Sho, can I ask you something?" he asked. "Sure, but I won't answer it if I don't want to," I said. "Yeah, sure, but Kay and I want to have a bond mark with you. Can we bond with you? It will help with your recovery. The bond mark will also help to feel you safe. We can also tend immediately if you need anything since we can sense it through the bond of your," he said. "Eleanor," I said, "it is fine for me whatever you choose, Sho," she said. "I'm going to rest," I said as I shut off the connection. "Do I need to bond with Kay? Does he want me to be his mate?" I thought as I dripped off to sleep. As I opened my eyes, I was blinded by the light coming from the window. I was about to cover my eyes when I feel that someone was holding my hand. I looked to my side and saw Kay sleeping while holding my hand. I stared at him as I thought, "Why aren't you disgusted?" I pat his head and squeeze his hand. He started to move and opens his eyes. I see his beautiful golden brown eyes. "Good morning," I whispered. He inhales sharply, getting out of his sleeping state. "You're awake," he said as he immediately stands, sits on the bed, and hugs me tightly. "Good morning," he said as he releases some calming pheromones. I hesitantly hugs back and inhales the calming scent as I replied, "I'm sorry. I forgive you. Don't do that again, okay? If you think about it, you can tell me, okay? You don't need to hide it from me. I'll be here, I will never leave your side. You're not alone, okay?" he said. I start to cry as I keep saying, "I'm sorry, Kay." "Shish, it's okay," he said as he kissed my forehead. "It's okay." After I cried for hours, I calmed down. Maybe they're right about the bond thing. Maybe it will help. "Kay," I started. He hums. "I can send it," I said. Really? He stutters. "It sounds like a relief or something." I said. "Okay, I'll inform the doctor." He replied. "Are you sure? Isn't it a selfish request from a disgusting like you?" Those intrusive thoughts started. What a selfish brat. Shoyo. Stop. It's not selfish. They also want it, okay? Eleanor said, cutting them. "Okay," I said. I'm Hinata Shoyo, 15 years old, bonded with my fated pair, Tsukishima K.
To be continued. If you like this video, consider subscribing by clicking the subscribe button. Bye!